Hello everybody and welcome to the course. In this section we're going to be talking through technical trading, and to start it off in this video I'm just going to break down what we're going to cover, and then I'm going to show you how to set up your workspace. So in this section of the course we're going to talk through chart work and technicals, and what I'm going to cover is first of all the principles and the basic methods that we use, and then what we're going to do is take it to the high time frames and I'll show you how to apply this to the high time frames. And then we'll go to the low time frames and I'll show you how to apply on the low time frames as well. And by the end of it, you should have methods, processes, and everything down to actually go and trade the high time frames or the low time frames, depending on what kind of trader you are, successfully. So getting straight into it then, what we're going to do in this video is essentially set up a workspace on TradingView. So the first thing to note is the chart software I use is TradingView. That is what it's called. And basically, this is where I do all my chart work, okay? I execute somewhere else. I don't have a broker connected to TradingView, so I actually execute on a broker. But I do all of my chart work here. I do analyze here, and this is essentially my main space for trading. My MetaTrader is just used for executions. So TradingView is very flexible. You can change a lot of things. You can make things like how you want them to. I actually have this colored chart. I like a dark theme. It's lighter on the eyes with a nice blue and gray, quite neutral tone. When you're trading with the red and green candles, you do run into that psychological aspect of green meaning happiness or profit and red being fear. It actually drives you psychologically and can be detrimental, or to at least some degree, to the trading that you're actually doing. So I prefer the neutral tone of the blue and grey over the standard red and green candles that you get when you first set up TradingView. Now my chart colors are here. What we do to change the colors is basically double click, or we can go to the right click and go to settings. And basically from here, we can actually edit everything about the chart. Now symbol is where you'll find the chart colors and all the main things. And you can actually just click on these and choose any color, or you can select a new color with this little plus. So if we go to add custom color, you can see here 21963F. That is the blue that I have, and I have that across all of them. And then the gray is just the fourth gray along on the top, which is 9598A1. And those are my chart colors, and that is what I primarily use just for all of my charting, just to keep things neutral. So when you have your chart set up, I think the memberships for this begin at around $15 per month and go up to around $70. I have the highest cost one, but it does have all of the best things for low time frame trading. If you are focusing on low time frames and you want to become a very good low time frame trader, 100% recommend getting the most expensive one. It will pay for itself in the long term. It's definitely worth the investment. You get seconds time frames on those, as we can see here, the 15 seconds time frame, which allows us to actually scale into entries really, really quickly, and allows us to get, really pinpoint trades. Now, if you are high time frame trading, you don't need this. And to a degree, if you're low time frame, but you don't have $70 a month to put to it, even though I would urge you to, attempt as much as you can, we can actually still just work with the 1 minute time frames and so on. So if it is too expensive right now, don't worry about that. Just start with the cheapest package. Basically, what you're going to get if you buy a subscription, because there is a free version, is first of all the ads will be gone. Sometimes you get pop-up ads if you have a free version, which is very annoying. That will be gone. And also, you'll get access to the bar replay tool, which we will be showing a lot more later. And that is how we backtest, because we can scroll back, click it on price, and then we can actually play price forward. So I definitely recommend getting one of the paid packages. The most expensive one is obviously the best for low time frame traders. If you are going to be a swing trader, there is absolutely no need to get that one. And if you are going to be a low time frame trader, but you don't have the budget for that, that's all good as well. Maybe just get the cheapest one. I don't think the middle package is going to give you too much of a benefit over the cheapest one. So really, when we have TradingView set up and we have our chart colors set, that is all we really need to do in terms of setting up a workspace right now. We can also have a last price line, which is going to just show you where price is right now. I don't use that because I think it clutters up the chart. It may make you think you have, a support resistance level, a key level marked on the chart there. So we don't really need the last price line. And within this chart settings area, there are a few other things you can play around with as well. If you go to scales, appearance even, you can actually plot on session breaks. These are a little bit ugly though. This just shows you between each trading day. And you can also add scales lines. You can change the color of those. These are the lines around here, and also the scales text. So if you wanted something that pops a little bit more, that may work for you, but I just like to keep it quite neutral, as I said. So I just roll with the white ones. We also have grids. I don't really like grids. grid lines, they're pretty ugly. I don't think we need them. I just keep everything the same in the background. So you have to change these as well if you want the background to all be one solid color like mine is. And then aside from that, we also have watermark, which is basically going to plot on a large, you can't really see it here. It says GBP USD in the background there. If I just turn it up, show you what the watermark is. Basically, it just marks out the currency pair that you're trading on the back. But I don't think we need that either. I like to keep it neat. So this is what I work with. Now, in terms of tools, things we're going to be using in our trading, we have a few different things. Okay, so over here we have a toolbar, and within this toolbar are a few tools that we are going to use. We don't need to go too deep. We don't use loads of these. We don't use loads of indicators, Fibonacci's, all of these silly things. We don't use, a lot of these either. But there are a few key ones that we use. The trend line. So I actually have a few default settings saved for the trend line. Trend line is basically a line you can just draw anywhere on the chart. I don't use it as a trend line because we don't trade trend lines. I use it to mark out price areas, breaks of structure, and so on. What we can do with this, though, is actually add some settings which are going to come in useful in the future. So I have these settings here. I have the pound above white, and then the same on the bottom as well. And what this is a liquidity bar. So basically, I have this to mark out liquidity. We'll get into liquidity in a bit, but for now, all you need to do is basically create this. And what you can do is just draw a trend line on, click on it, add text. You could add dollar signs or anything that indicates money. And then what you can do then is go ahead and save it as a template down here. And that's going to allow you to then quickly access it through this toolbar at the top where you can just, change the template there. So that is the first one we're going to use. That is for liquidity. The second thing we're going to use is arrows. Arrows are pretty much the same. Now we do have a few templates for this as well. One of the templates you want to create is the BOS above. This is break of structure. When we start talking about market structure, you'll see this in use. So it's good to have it set up. You'll use this a lot in your trading to mark out areas where structure has broken. We obviously have break of structure below. We have imbalance above, and we have imbalance below as well. So just create these. Basically, same thing again, IMB, show text alignment, put it on the top and the bottom, and save each one as a template. This is just going to save you a lot of time and allow you to keep everything organized when you're actually analyzing the charts. So from this section, that is almost it. We have trend lines, arrows. The only other thing I really use here is the parallel channel. This is basically to mark off supply and demand, which we will also talk about soon. So don't worry about the concepts. We're just getting you set up right now. This is basically a channel which draws a big box on the chart. It's very easy to use, very simple, and it draws all the way across. So this is good for high time frame work. So the parallel channel is good. Just set that up at a default that you like the look of. And from there, you should be all good with this section. So moving on to this section, we have the Gann box. This is where I use all of my demand zones and supply zones on the lower time frames or anything that really isn't a high time frame large zone. This is my number one tool for supply and demand, which is really one of the number one things I use. And basically, when you start the Gann box, when you first put the Gann box on, it's going to look very, very horrible. It's going to look like this. So what you want to do is go in, turn everything off except for the 0, the 0.5, and the 1 price line, and then put them all to the same color. Let's put them to gray, for example. And then you can get rid of the labels, the background, and everything else from over here. So when you do that, everything is going to look a bit neater. You can also put the background back on. Actually, I do have the background on a little bit, as you'll see. That's what my box looks like. And then same thing again, head over templates. I've got this saved as supply and demand box, or S&D, okay? So save that as that, and you'll have a demand zone or supply zone box to work with. So the only other template you're going to need from this section then is the Fibonacci retracement. Fib retracement is the top one, and when we mark it on, it also looks like the Gann box, you will see. But what we do with this one is basically use it for what we call premium and discount pricing. We don't use Fibonacci in the way that most people do. There is also some value in using the Fib areas around 78 to 88, but currently in my system, I'm not using that so much anymore. The reason being, the price action tells us everything we need to know, and we can get better precise entries by actually looking at zones than we can by using Fib. So for my Fibonacci retracement tool, all I have is a box that looks like this. And basically when I draw it on, the top half of the box is going to be premium pricing. The bottom half of the box is discount pricing. We'll talk through this later in the course. It's not something I use massively, but it is valuable for actually finding reversals and knowing whether or not a reversal is valid. So for Fibonacci, basically when you draw this on, if we go to the defaults on this one, you're going to see that it's also pretty messy. Let me just save this one because I didn't have it saved. And then if we go to apply default drawing tool, there you go. It's going to look pretty messy like that. To fix this one, basically turn everything off, except for once again, the 0, the 1, and the 0.5 price line. So if you turn all of those off, you'll suddenly have this. If you make them all the same color, you will have that quite neat. And then we can also get rid of this here, the trend line, which will cut that out the middle. And also you can get rid of the labels as well if you want, or leave them. I just prefer it without them. So that is my Fibonacci box. That is the last thing you're going to need from this section. And then the only other things we use really are, the path tool, which is just guiding price when we're doing markups. Pretty simple to use. And the rectangle may come in handy if you prefer to use that for supply and demand, or just to mark off price areas. Other than that, nothing really to cover in here. Potentially the curve, pretty easy to use. We don't really need to set that up. These are all just for forecasting. And then the text, we have text boxes and callouts, which we do use to, mark out analysis when we're doing our markups, ready to work with. Now, the last thing we really need to know in terms of TradingView and actually working with this in the future is we need a place to actually mark out our setups to work out what risk reward we're going for on positions. So what we can do is grab these two, long position and short position. Let's say we wanted to buy this pair here. We could put this on. We could scale our stop loss. We could put our target up here, just as a hypothetical trade. And then we would know, okay, if we do buy here and we have our stop loss here and we have our target here, we will make 2.6 times our risk if the trade wins. And obviously, if we lose, we'll just lose the 1 times our risk. So that's what we use this for, this tool here. And there's obviously the short one is the other way around. So if we wanted to sell here instead with the stop loss here, for example, and the target down into here, we would know that if this wins, we're going to win 7.3 times our risk. So that's just how we mark up the setups when we have a trade planned and we want to get that on the chart. So there we go. That is setting up TradingView. That is your workspace. All you're really going to need for this is obviously a membership of some form, starting at around $15 per month, and a computer to work this on. But I think if you are getting into trading and you don't have a computer, 1000% you need to get one, even if it's just a cheap laptop or, a small desktop, whatever. You just need something to work with on a larger screen that you can actually use a little bit more fluently and a bit more fluid than a phone or an iPad. So that is all for now for this video. TradingView is now set up. Recap through this if you need to, but just go ahead to the chart, mark on your chart, and get that all down. So before we finish, there's actually one thing I wanted to cover, which was a couple of indicators. We're going to go to the indicators. FXN Asian Session Range is one that we like to see. And basically, when we plot this on our chart, it is going to put on the sessions on top of our chart. So you can actually see now, when we zoom in, we have these faded boxes behind each candle, or behind each area of candles, right? We have blue box, a green box, and a red box. What this does is basically just mark out the trading sessions. So there are 3 different types of trading sessions. Don't worry about this right now. We're going to get into this in the future. If you want to ignore this one for now, you can do that. But this is the Asian session, which happens throughout the night in UK time. This is the London session, which is my primary intraday trading area. And this is the New York session. So doing this is obviously good for back testing, which we're also going to talk about in the future, and also for making sure that I'm staying within my trading session when I'm actually carrying out my work. But really, for now, this doesn't matter. We are going to get into this when we talk low time frames, and I will be recapping this indicator and showing you how to set it up and why it's useful. So for now, just focus on everything previous to this. If you want to add this on as well, you can do, but you may need a little bit of time to work out how it works. And from here on out, we're going to get into some of the technical work. I'm going to start by showing you how to refine a watch list and choose a good selection of pairs. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.